last week, I wrapped up a call with my client and told her to go and turn herself on and give herself an orgasm. So if you're a woman who's tired of walking into rooms you're meant to lead and feeling like an imposter, today's episode is the one that you need to hear, because your pleasure is the pathway to you owning your undeniable power, presence, and leading with the influence you know you're meant to. Welcome back to the Ghislain Maiden podcast, the home of erotic leadership, where your pleasure is the pathway to your power and your frequency the key to unlock your millions. I'm Ghislain, and together we'll activate your eroticism. You'll master the frequencies of success to lead and rise with undeniable power. Imposter syndrome is one of the biggest things that I see holding female leaders back from really undeniably and unapologetically owning their authority. Now, this shows up in very different ways depending on what level of leadership you're at. A lot of my clients have no problem leading their teams, their clients, consultants. But where their imposter syndrome starts to arise is when they walk into that conference or an event where they're surrounded by their peers, by people who are more senior than them, by people who are on the same level. And this is exactly what was happening with my client. And it's why today I'm using our session as a case study. And I will say that I have my client's permission to speak about what happened in our session. I would never share details of a client without asking them first. So let me give you the lay of the landscape. My client walked into an event, and instead of walking in there confidently, speaking from a place of self-trust, of presence, of power, of being that woman who walks into the room and people just look because energetically they know that she is a point of authority. None of that was happening because she was scanning the room looking for safety. She was scanning the room because she was too worried about who was going to judge her. Was she saying the right thing? And ultimately, was she safe? Was she going to fit into this space? And this is what imposter syndrome so often comes down to. The desire to belong is holding women back from actually fucking leading, because instead of saying the thing that they want to say, instead of really not giving a fuck about what other people think about who you are, how you show up, and what you say, they're constantly shrinking themselves into some contorted self of self-acceptance that will be cohesive and accepted by the group. And here's the thing, you cannot lead a movement while you are still choosing acceptance and belonging over undeniable authority. And this is what happens when senior women lead movements, but they haven't released or created safety in the nervous system and the body, their desire to belong more than their desire to lead. And so what happened with my client? She's walked into this event, and instead of walking in and boom, being, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I stand for, she's shrunk herself. She's scanning the room for safety because she's looking for safety outside of herself instead of creating it from within. And she's definitely not speaking up because she is too worried about judgment, about what other people will think of her, and about belonging. And I see this cycle all the time in different manifestations. And no amount of mindset or strategy will fix this, because this is an embodiment and an erotic disconnection problem. You see, my client's body was not feeling safe in this environment because she hadn't expanded her capacity to hold that level of influence, because she still cared too much about belonging, and she hadn't unapologetically owned who she was, her unique voice, and her point of authority. And no amount of mindset or strategy is going to fix an embodiment and a nervous system capacity problem. So the first thing we did was we went into her body and we dropped into the part of her that felt unsafe in crowds of people. The part of her that, instead of owning her uniqueness, her quirkiness, felt like that was too much. And we were able to release this from her body, from her nervous system, and expand her capacity to feel safe. That was one part of the work. And then comes the orgasm. You see, when a woman prioritizes her pleasure, she drops from her head and down into her body. She no longer fakes confidence and authority. It's something that she owns. And instead of feeling depleted, exhausted, she all of a sudden becomes full of life, of energy, of vitality. She stops caring about what other people think. And because your vulva and your throat are connected, you start speaking more unapologetically, because if your pelvic bowl is restricted, then so is your throat, then so is your authority as a leader. And this is exactly what was going on with my client. She wasn't able to have fun in these events because she was too much in her head, because she was too worried about the judgment of everybody else. So through reconnecting to the body, through her prioritizing her pleasure, her aliveness, the very next week she co-facilitated an event, and she did it from a place of confidence, of trust, because she dropped down into the body. She prioritized her pleasure. She expanded her capacity to no longer shrink herself in rooms that she was meant to lead. And the results, within just a week, she was no longer walking into these rooms and holding herself back. She was leading them because she's meant to lead them. And these are the results that I see time and time and time again. Because the more a woman connects to her sense of pleasure, the more she prioritizes her orgasm, the more she walks into a space and she no longer shrinks. She allows the room to calibrate to her, and people look at her as a point of authority. She no longer filters her voice. She says exactly what she thinks. And she no longer worries about fitting in or belonging, because she's so embodied in the movement that she's here to lead. And this is the exact results we were able to create for my client. And this is exactly why, if you're a woman who's ready to stop holding herself back, if you're done shrinking your power and your authority when you get into rooms with your peers, Erotic Evolution is the room where you learn how to cultivate your sense of pleasure, turn on, and aliveness to lead with undeniable power, influence, and presence. So if you're tired of shrinking and you're ready to become an unapologetic powerhouse, like I know you are, go ahead and book your call through the link below to get into the room where power isn't performed. It's unapologetically owned. And if you really want to start to feel your ability to tap into that undeniable confidence and lead from that place, I invite you to prioritize your pleasure and watch what happens.